The dragon drawer. The pencil scratched against paper as Theo finished his dragon's 23rd wing scale. Mrs. Penton would have been alarmed if she'd known this was the 547th time her 10-year-old son had drawn the exact same dragon. Not approximately the same dragon, not a similar dragon with creative variations, the exact same dragon, down to the number of scales, the precise angle of the horns, and the specific pattern of iridescence on its turquoise hide. She might have been even more concerned had she realized he'd been drawing versions of this dragon since he was 3 years old, with increasingly sophisticated detail as his motor skills developed. The Penton household operated on a delicate balance of organized chaos, unspoken agreements, and moderately healthy dinners. Mr. Penton, an accountant with a passion for vintage calculator watches, maintained that some eccentricity was good for a child's development. Mrs. Penton, a part-time librarian and full-time worrier, maintained that there was a fine line between creative and future headline in the local newspaper. Theo maintained his dragon drawings. "Dinner in 29 minutes, called Mrs. Penton from downstairs. Theo ignored her. The left wing still needed 14 more scales, and he'd learned through trial and error that interrupting the pattern resulted in headaches that felt like someone was trying to perform dental surgery on his brain using a spork and a rubber band. "Did you hear me, Theodore?" "Coming," he shouted, not looking up from his work. The dragon on the page seemed to stare back at him with emerald eyes that somehow looked wiser than any reptile had a right to. Theo had named it Calzarix when he was 4, though he couldn't remember why or how the name had come to him. It just felt right, the same way the drawings felt right, the same way he knew exactly which colored pencil to use for each scale without having to think about it. The box of pencils sat open beside him, a birthday gift from his grandmother 3 years ago. They weren't ordinary colored pencils. These had names like Nebula Heart and Quantum Whisper, instead of blue and red. The colors seemed to shift slightly depending on the angle of light, and Theo had never seen another set like them in any art store. He added one final flourish to the wing membrane, a subtle hint of translucence where light would pass through if Calzarix were real, then carefully slid the drawing into his special folder. The folder contained 39 completed drawings, each slightly different, each feeling like a puzzle piece to something larger that Theo couldn't quite grasp. Sometimes, when he looked at them all spread out on his bedroom floor, he thought he could almost see something, like those 3D pictures that revealed themselves if you unfocused your eyes just right. "Theo. 23 seconds until I come up there." He quickly tucked the folder under his mattress and rushed downstairs, unaware that 3 miles away, sophisticated monitoring equipment had just recorded another inexplicable energy surge emanating from his bedroom. The scientists. Dr. Marlene Fisher tapped her pen against the edge of her desk as she reviewed the latest energy readings from monitoring Station 6. Most people would have seen just a jumble of numbers and multicolored graphs. She saw poetry in chaos, specifically, the kind of poetry that made careers and secured funding. "This can't be right," she muttered, enlarging a particular spike in the pattern. "What can't be right?" asked her assistant, Dr. Raj Kapoor, without looking up from his own screen. "I'm seeing repeated harmonic resonance patterns from the residential zone. Too regular to be natural, too complex to be from standard electronic equipment." Raj swiveled his chair over and squinted at her monitor. That looks almost like theoretical transdimensional echo patterns." They said in unison, "But that's impossible." Raj continued, "Our models show that kind of energy signature would require a device the size of a small nuclear reactor." Marlene leaned back in her chair, a smile creeping across her face. "Unless someone's found a way to amplify and focus the energy." "Do you know what this means? That we're about to lose our weekend to chasing phantom readings in suburbia? That Project Threshold might actually be viable. Get me the exact coordinates of the source." Raj tapped at his keyboard. "Looks like 42, Sycamore Lane. Who lives there?" "Pulling it up now." Marlene's fingers flew across her tablet. "The Penton family. Father Harold Penton, accountant. Mother Elaine Penton, librarian. Child Theodore Penton, age 10. Marlene's eyes narrowed. A 10-year-old child is somehow generating transdimensional energy signatures in his bedroom. This I have to see. Within hours, the Department of Anomalous Phenomena had classified Theo Penton as a subject of interest. The initial surveillance report was brief but intriguing. Subject maintains routine appropriate for age demographic. Subject displays above-average artistic ability. Subject repeatedly produces drawings of same cryptozoological entity, reptilian, winged. Energy spikes correlate precisely with artistic activity. Emissions increase 27% when subject uses specific color drawing implements. No evidence of outside influence or coaching. Parents appear unaware of anomalous nature of subject's activities. Recommendation: continue passive monitoring. Consider approaching subject's school for academic records and behavior assessment. Prepare for possible level 2 intervention if energy signatures continue to amplify. Dr. Fisher added her personal note to the file: I want eyes inside that house. Something doesn't add up. The patterns are too precise, too intentional. This child is either an unwitting conduit or the most naturally gifted dimensional physicist I've ever encountered. Either way, I want to know what he's drawing and why. The substitute teacher. Ms. Ashtari wasn't like their other substitute teachers. For one thing, she knew everyone's names on the first day. For another, she didn't treat them like they were slightly stupider versions of regular people just because they were in 5th grade. But what really made Theo notice her was how she froze when she walked past his desk during art period and saw his dragon drawing. That's an interesting creature, she said, her voice suddenly tight. Did you create it yourself? Theo shrugged, adding another scale to the tale. Sort of. I've been drawing him since I was little. Him. Calzarix. Ms. Ashtari's pencil snapped in her hand. I'm sorry, what did you call it? Calzarix, Theo repeated, looking up at her properly for the first time. Her eyes were an unusual color, almost amber with flecks of gold that seemed to catch the light oddly. It's just a name I made up. Of course, she said with a smile that didn't quite reach those strange eyes. It's very detailed. You must have quite an imagination. Later, as Theo was packing up his backpack, Ms. Ashtari approached his desk again. Theo, have you ever considered taking extra art lessons? I know a program for gifted young artists. Mom says I already have too many activities, he replied automatically. This was his standard response to any new commitment suggestion. I see. Well, perhaps I could speak with your parents. The program is very selective. I think you have a rare talent that shouldn't go uncultivated. Something about the way she said it made Theo feel like she wasn't really talking about art classes. Okay, I guess. Excellent. And Theo, those drawings you make, do you keep them somewhere safe? He thought about the folder under his mattress. Yeah, they're safe. Good. That's very good. She handed him a business card. If you ever feel like talking about your art, you can call me anytime. The card was unusual. Instead of typical contact information, it simply read, Dr. Elena Ashtari, Cultural Exchange Specialist, with a phone number that had too many digits. That evening, while Theo showed his parents the card over dinner, Dr. Fisher received an encrypted message at her secure terminal. Contact established with subject. Subject confirms entity designation, Calzarix, matches ancient Draconic linguistics database. Subject unaware of significance. Recommend immediate escalation to level 3 protocols. This is not a child's imagination. Request permission to initiate direct contact phase. Agent Ashtari, deep cover operations. Dr. Fisher stared at the message for a long moment, then reached for her red phone, the one that connected directly to her department head. Sir. Fisher here. We need to talk about the Penton boy. No, not over the phone. And sir. You're going to want to read the linguistic analysis first. The name he gave his dragon, it's not made up. It's real. The truth revealed. 3 days later, Theo found himself in a room that looked nothing like any government office he'd seen in movies. It was more like a cross between an art studio and a science lab, with easels next to computer monitors and paintbrushes stored alongside precision instruments. Dr. Fisher sat across from him, and Ms. Ashtari, who had introduced herself as Dr. Ashtari, stood nearby. His parents waited in another room, having been told this was about Theo's exceptional artistic abilities and a special program for gifted children. It wasn't entirely a lie. "Theo," Dr. Fisher began gently, "we'd like you to draw Calzarix for us. But this time, we'd like you to use these." She placed a set of pencils on the table, not the colorful ones from his grandmother, but strange instruments that seemed to hum with barely contained energy. "What are they?" Theo asked, picking one up. It felt warm and seemed to vibrate slightly in his hand. "They're amplifiers," Dr. Ashtari explained. "We think they'll help you draw more clearly than you ever have before." As Theo began to sketch, the instruments in the room started registering readings that made the scientists exchange excited glances. But Theo was lost in his work, more focused than he'd ever been. The dragon took shape on the paper with startling clarity, each scale perfectly defined, each line flowing with purpose. Halfway through the drawing, something extraordinary happened. The dragon's eyes began to glow. Not on the paper, in the air above it. A translucent image of Calzarix materialized, floating just inches above Theo's artwork. The dragon turned its great head and looked directly at the boy. "Hello, young artist," the dragon spoke, its voice like distant thunder mixed with wind chimes. "I have been waiting for you to grow strong enough to see me clearly." Theo dropped his pencil, but the dragon remained. "You're real. As real as the stars you cannot see in daylight," Calzarix replied. "I am from a place your people call the ninth dimension. For 7 years, you have been drawing doorways, Theo. Each picture was a coordinate, a map, a key to open the pathway between our worlds." Dr. Fisher leaned forward, her scientific mind racing. "The energy signatures, you've been communicating across dimensional barriers through the boy's artwork." The dragon's gaze shifted to her. "The child has a gift your kind rarely develops, the ability to translate pure thought into dimensional mathematics through artistic expression." Each drawing was both a message and a blueprint. "But why?" Theo asked, still staring in wonder at the magnificent creature floating before him. "Because my world is dying," Calzarix explained sadly. "We need a new home, and your dimension has the perfect resonance frequency. But we are beings of honor, we would not take without permission. So we chose to communicate with one pure of heart, one who could create the bridge through innocent artistry." Dr. Ashtari stepped forward. "You're refugees. We are the last of our kind, seeking sanctuary." The boy's drawings were our application for asylum, written in the universal language of creativity and hope. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. First contact with an alien species had come not through radio telescopes or government programs, but through a 10-year-old boy's obsessive dragon drawings. "How many of you are there?" Dr. Fisher asked. 47 adults, 32 younglings. We are scholars, artists, builders, peaceful beings who wish only to contribute to the greater symphony of existence." Theo looked at his parents through the observation window, then back at Calzarix. "What happens now?" The dragon smiled, somehow, impossibly, its reptilian features conveyed warmth and kindness. "Now, young Theo, you complete the final drawing. The one that will open the door permanently and allow my people to cross over safely. The decision, however, is not yours alone to make." The final drawing. The emergency session of the United Nations Security Council was unlike any in history. Representatives from every major nation sat around the table, listening to Dr. Fisher's presentation about interdimensional refugees seeking asylum through a child's artwork. "You're telling us," the American representative said slowly, "that first contact with an alien species happened because a 10-year-old boy in suburban Ohio has been unconsciously creating interdimensional portals with colored pencils?" "Essentially, yes," Dr. Fisher replied. The boy serves as an unwitting conduit. His artistic process translates complex dimensional mathematics into visual form. Each drawing has been progressively building toward a permanent gateway. The Chinese delegate leaned forward. And these, dragons, they want to immigrate to Earth? They're fleeing the collapse of their own dimension, Dr. Ashtari explained. Their entire species, fewer than 80 individuals, seeks peaceful refuge. They've demonstrated advanced knowledge in energy manipulation, dimensional physics, and what they call harmony sciences. What do they offer in return? Asked the Russian representative. Dr. Fisher smiled. Clean, unlimited energy. Medical knowledge that could eliminate most diseases. Environmental restoration techniques. And perhaps most importantly, proof that intelligence and wisdom don't require conquest or dominance. Meanwhile, in a secure facility in Ohio, Theo sat with his parents, his special pencils, and a blank sheet of paper. Through the observation glass, dozens of scientists and officials watched. In the air above the table, Kalzarix waited patiently, his form flickering between dimensions. Are you scared? His mother asked, squeezing his hand. Theo considered this. A little. But mostly excited. It's like, all those drawings were practice for this one moment. His father nodded. Your choice, son. Whatever you decide, we support you. The secure phone rang. Dr. Fisher answered, listened for a moment, then hung up with a smile. The vote was unanimous, she announced. Sanctuary granted. Theo picked up his pencil, the special one that hummed with interdimensional energy, and began to draw. This time, the drawing was different. Instead of just Kalzarix, he drew a great portal framed by intricate dragon wings, with small figures visible through the opening, the other dragons, waiting patiently in their dying world. As he worked, the air in the room began to shimmer. Energy readings spiked beyond anything they'd recorded before. And slowly, majestically, a doorway began to open in the space above his drawing. Through it stepped beings of incredible beauty, dragons of every size and color, their scales catching light that came from no earthly source. They moved with grace and dignity, bowing respectfully to the humans who watched in wonder. Kalzarix was the last to come through. As he crossed the threshold, he looked down at Theo with eyes full of gratitude. Thank you, young artist. You have given us not just sanctuary, but hope. We will spend eternity ensuring your world benefits from our presence. As the portal closed behind them, sealing itself with patterns that looked remarkably like scales, Theo set down his pencil and smiled. So, he said to his parents, can I still have art lessons? The room erupted in laughter, human and dragon alike. 6 months later, the first joint human-dragon research facility produced its initial breakthrough, a cure for cancer that worked by harmonizing cellular frequencies. The dragons proved to be everything they'd promised, wise, peaceful, and incredibly generous with their knowledge. And in a suburban house in Ohio, a boy named Theo kept drawing dragons, though now they drew back, creating artwork that bridged two species in friendship and wonder. His grandmother's magic pencils sat in a place of honor on his desk, though he'd learned they weren't magic at all, just very, very advanced science that looked like magic to anyone who didn't understand dimensional physics. Any sufficiently advanced art, Dr. Ashtari had told him, paraphrasing an old saying, is indistinguishable from magic. Theo had laughed and started his next drawing, this time, of humans and dragons working together among the stars. Because now that the door was open, who knew what other worlds might be watching, waiting for a young artist to show them the way home? The end.